Here's a question that might sting. What are you still trying to prove? That you're good enough, smart enough, worthy enough, lovable enough? Who are you trying to prove it to? And what will finally be enough evidence? When you grow up with a parent who couldn't see you, who couldn't validate you, who couldn't reflect back your inherent value, you learn something devastating. That your worth is something you must earn, that you must prove, that depends on your performance, your achievements, your usefulness to others. And you spend your life in exhausting pursuit of enough evidence to finally establish your worth. Enough accomplishments, enough productivity, enough self-improvement, enough healing, enough of being what others need you to be. But here's what no one tells you. Worth doesn't work like that. I'm Judi Bommarito, and this is healing card number 24, self-worth. The crone phase has been teaching you clarity and the path to forgiveness. And here's a clarity that changes everything. You can't forgive someone for not giving you worth because they never had the power to give it or take it away. Your worth was never theirs to grant. It was always inherent. You just forgot. You learned early that worth is conditional, that you have value only when you perform well, meet expectations, don't cause problems, make others happy, achieve visible success, are useful to others, don't need too much, stay small and manageable. This creates an exhausting loop. I'll prove my worth through achievement. I achieve something. The feeling of worth lasts briefly. Doubt returns. I need to prove it again. No doubt of achievement ever permanently establishes your worth because you're operating from a false premise. That worth is something earned rather than it's something inherent. This is why successful people still feel worthless. Why accomplished people still feel like frauds. Why people who've done everything right still seem like they're not enough. Because you can't earn what you already have. You can't prove what was never in question. You're trying to solve the wrong problem. The problem isn't that you haven't achieved enough to be worthy. The problem is you're operating from the belief that worth comes from achievement at all. Here's the truth that your childhood couldn't teach you. Worth is inherent. You have it because you exist, not because of what you do, what you achieve, or how others respond to you. This isn't a platitude. This is a fundamental shift in how you understand value. Your worth is like your aliveness. You don't earn the right to be alive through good behavior. You don't prove you deserve to breathe through achievement. You're alive, therefore you breathe. It's not conditional, it's inherent. Your worth works the same way. You exist, therefore you have worth. It's not granted by others. It's not determined by performance. It's not conditional on being perfect, healed, or lovable to everyone. It just is. But when your parent couldn't reflect this back to you, when they were too consumed by their own struggles, too absent, too limited in their capacity, you learned to look for your worth in external validation, in achievement, in being what others needed. You learned to earn what should have been freely given, the basic acknowledgement that you matter simply because you exist. And now, as an adult, you're still performing that exhausting dance, still trying to earn from the world what your parent couldn't give you, confirmation that you're inherently valuable. But the world can't give you what you already have. Only you can stop seeking external confirmation and start knowing internal truth. Self-esteem is about how you feel about yourself. It fluctuates. It's based on your assessment of your qualities, abilities, and accomplishments. Self-esteem says, I feel good about myself because I'm competent, because I achieved something, because I'm doing well. Self-esteem is important, but it's conditional. When you fail, when you struggle, when you're not performing well, self-esteem drops. Self-worth is different. Self-worth is the foundational knowing that you have value regardless of how you're performing, what you've achieved, or how you're feeling about yourself. Self-worth says, I have inherent value whether I'm succeeding or failing, producing or resting, at my best or my worst. You need both. But if you only have self-esteem without self-worth, you're always vulnerable. Your sense of value rises and falls with your performance. You're only as good as your last achievement. You're only as worthy as your current productivity. Self-worth is the foundation. It's what allows you to fail without becoming worthless, to rest without becoming useless, to be imperfect without being inadequate. The healing journey is about building self-esteem, learning to feel good about who you are and what you're capable of. But it's also about recovering self-worth, remembering that your value doesn't depend on all those things at all. Here's how self-worth connects to the crone phase work of forgiveness. You can't truly forgive someone who withheld validation until you realize their validation was never the source of your worth. As long as you believe your parent had the power to grant or deny your worth, you're stuck. You're waiting for them to acknowledge your value, to see you, to finally confirm what you've been trying to prove your whole life. But they never had that power. They couldn't give you worth because it was never theirs to give. And they couldn't take it away because it was never conditional on their recognition. When you know, really know, that your worth is inherent, forgiveness becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You're not forgiving them for making you worthless. You're releasing the belief that they ever had the power to determine your value in the first place. You're not forgiving them for not seeing you. You're accepting that their inability to see you was their limitation, not your inadequacy. You're not forgiving them for withholding love. You're recognizing that their withholding didn't make you unlovable. It revealed their incapacity. Forgiveness from a place of knowing your worth looks different than forgiveness from a place of seeking their validation. One is about release. The other is still about trying to earn something from them. When you know your worth is inherent, you stop needing them to acknowledge it, and that's when real forgiveness becomes possible. Living as if you must constantly prove your worth is exhausting. You can't rest because resting might mean you're lazy. You can't fail because failing might mean you're inadequate. You can't need help because needing means you're weak. You can't be imperfect because imperfection might mean you're flawed. You can't disappoint others because their disappointment might mean you're not enough. This is survival mode masquerading as high functioning. This is anxiety masquerading as achievement. This is the desperate performance of worth because the inherent knowing of worth was never established. And the cruelest part? No amount of proving ever brings lasting peace because the premise is wrong. You're trying to establish through evidence what can only be known through truth. You are worthy, not because of what you've achieved, not because of what you've overcome, not because of how hard you've worked or how much you've healed. You're worthy simply because you're a human being, and human beings have inherent worth. That's not something you prove. That's something you remember. The exhaustion you feel isn't from not doing enough. It's from trying to earn what was always yours. You've been looking for worth in all the wrong places. In achievement, but accomplishments fade and there's always a next goal. In others' approval, but others' opinions shift and you can't control them. In productivity, but rest is necessary and productivity isn't constant. In perfection, but perfection is impossible and imperfection is human. In being needed, but your worth isn't determined by your usefulness to others. In fixing yourself, but you're not broken, you're healing. These external sources of worth will always fail you, not because you're not achieving enough, not getting enough approval, not being productive enough, but because worth doesn't come from external sources at all. You must reclaim your worth from these conditional sources and relocate it where it actually lives, in your inherent existence as a human being. This isn't about becoming arrogant or entitled. This is about finally resting in a truth that most people take for granted, that you matter, that your existence has value, that you don't need to justify taking up space. When you stop performing worth and start knowing worth, everything changes. You can fail without falling apart. You can rest without guilt. You can need help without shame. You can be imperfect without being worthless. Knowing your worth is inherent is one thing. Living from that knowledge is another. You've spent years, maybe decades, living as if your worth is conditional. That pattern doesn't disappear because you intellectually understand it's false. You need to practice living from inherent worth, to catch yourself when you slip back into performing, to notice when you're seeking external validation, to recognize when you're trying to earn what you already have. Notice your worth-seeking behaviors. Overachieving to feel value. People-pleasing to feel worthy of love. Over-explaining to justify your existence. Apologizing excessively for taking up space. Constantly proving you're not a burden. Seeking validation through perfectionism. Measuring your value by your productivity. These aren't character flaws. They're adaptations to a childhood where worth felt conditional. But now you can choose differently. Not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually, repeatedly, consistently. Each time you notice yourself performing worth, you can pause and remember, I don't need to prove this. My worth is inherent. I'm valuable because I exist, not because of what I achieve. This practice doesn't come naturally at first. It feels wrong. It feels arrogant. It feels like you're giving yourself permission you haven't earned. That's how you know you're doing it right. The old pattern insists you must earn permission. The new truth says permission is inherent. This week's practice, separating worth from achievement. This daily practice takes 3 minutes. Each morning, before you check your phone or start your day, sit quietly and place both hands on your heart. Say out loud or silently, I exist, therefore I matter. Pause, let that land. Notice any resistance that comes up. Then say, my worth is not conditional on what I achieve today. Pause again, breathe. Then say, I am valuable whether I succeed or fail, produce or rest, perform well or struggle. One more breath. Then finish with, my worth was never in question. I'm remembering not earning. Throughout the day, set 3 alarms labeled worth check. When they sound, pause and ask yourself, am I trying to prove my worth right now? If yes, notice what you're doing. Overworking to feel valuable? People-pleasing to feel worthy? Apologizing for existing? Seeking validation through performance? Then say quietly to yourself, I exist, therefore I matter. I don't need to prove this. That's it. You're not trying to change your behavior yet. You're just noticing the pattern, interrupting it with truth, practicing remembering your inherent worth. Do this every day for 1 week. Watch what shifts when you stop performing and start remembering. Self-worth isn't something you build through achievement. It's something you remember through clarity. You've been trying to earn what was always yours, prove what was never in question, establish through evidence what can only be known through truth. Your parent couldn't reflect your worth back to you. That was their limitation, not your lack. Their inability to see you didn't make you invisible. It revealed their blindness. And now, the work is simple, but not easy. Remember that your worth is inherent. Stop performing, stop proving, stop seeking external validation for internal truth. You matter because you exist. Your value isn't conditional on performance. Your worth isn't granted by others' recognition. This is the clarity the crone offers. They couldn't give you worth because it was never theirs to give. And they couldn't take it away because it was never conditional in the first place. When you know this, really know it, forgiveness becomes possible. Because you're no longer waiting for them to confirm what you now know to be true. What are you still trying to prove? What would change if you stopped performing worth and started knowing it? Share in the comments one way you try to earn worth that you're ready to release. Subscribe to continue this crone phase journey. Next week, card 25, resilience. Understanding that your capacity to endure comes from the same inherent worth you've been discovering. Practice. I exist, therefore I matter. Every morning this week. Notice when you're performing worth. Interrupt the pattern with truth. The waning moon guides you toward release. Release the burden of proving your worth. Release the exhausting performance. Release the belief that you must earn what was always yours. You exist, therefore you matter. That's not something you prove. It's something you remember. And the remembering changes everything. Take good care.